Ahem. A mind drunken Jiro or muscular sharks might do a band poster or ASMR. Spend some time designing t-shirts, can try one soon. There's art in my heart, is Turtle approved.
Hello. Hi there. My name is John. I go by Turtle Approved, and I just want to welcome you to GhostCon. Today I'm going to be showing you how to screen print DIY. Disclaimer, I haven't screen printed in over 2 years, so this is probably not the best tutorial. Also, forgive me, I am not very good at making videos. I decided to voice over all of my clips since I hate them so much. Thanks. To get started, let's talk about some of the more basic items that I'm going to be using for this project. First off, you can't screen print without a screen. You can either buy this or you can make it. I've done both. I tend to buy mine now. You will also need a design that you're going to print. I went ahead and drew up this generically spooky, scary drawing, and we're going to see if we can transfer this onto our screen. And to do that, we're going to be using a compound called photo emulsion. It's what allows you to transfer your design onto your screen. It's sensitive to UV light, so it allows you to burn your design in there. It's not the only way to transfer your design, but it is the most common way. We are also going to be using an item called a scoop coater. It's what allows you to coat your screens with the emulsion. If you can't find this particular item, you can also use an alternative item used in drywall. You also need ink depending on what kind of printing you're doing. For me, I'm printing on clothing, t-shirts right now, so I have this water-based fabric ink. Make sure that if you buy ink, it says fabric ink if you're printing on fabric. There are also other kinds of inks like plastisol inks. I've not used them, so I cannot tell you my opinion about them, but I just wanted to let you know that they exist. You will also need a tool like a squeegee. It doesn't have to be a squeegee, it can also be a putty knife. I like to use sharper edge squeegees for more detailed designs. If you have a rounded edge squeegee, just be careful because it can blow out your design. You will also need a UV light to burn your design into your screen. Right here I have a 500 watt UV lamp that I got off of Amazon. It works pretty well. Burning your screen will depend on how high the wattage is and how far away it is from your screen. I would also suggest picking up a hose head that has a fairly high powered jet stream if you don't have a power washer. Because you will be needing this to both spray out your design after you burn it into your screen, and when you're reclaiming a screen, you'll need it to wash off the old emulsion. You will also need a heat source that can cure the ink after you printed. I particularly use a heat gun, but you can also use something like an iron. Just make sure if you are using an iron, you put a piece of wax paper in between the thing you're curing and the iron. Now that we've gone over some of the basic things that you'll need, let's go step by step on what you need to do to screen print. First thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to clean your screen. You're going to get some degreaser, aka dish soap, and you're going to wash it out however you can. This will help reduce all the dirt and stuff in between the holes in the screen so that when you coat it with emulsion, you won't have any pinholes. After you've washed your screens, you want to make sure that they've dried out completely. You can set them in a place to let them dry naturally, or you can use a fan to help speed the process along. You just want to make sure that your screens are dry for when you coat them in emulsion. Now that the screens are fully dried out, we can now coat them in emulsion. And to coat our screens, we're going to be using a tool called a scoop coater. It'll allow us to coat our screens entirely in emulsion, front and back, evenly. Just make sure that when you're coating your screens with emulsion that you're doing it in a dark room or a dim room. You don't want your emulsion to cure while you're coating your screens. I thought I had gotten footage of this, but apparently not. Also make sure that you're using a very thin layer of emulsion and not slabbing it on like I did. Otherwise you'll get drip drops like on some of my screens you'll see in a minute. After your screens are nicely coated, you're going to want to put them in a very dark place to dry. I made this little wire shelf and covered it with various fabrics so that the light would not get into the screens. You want to make sure that emulsion on your screens is completely dry. whether that is through a fan or like leaving it overnight like I did. After that, you're going to want to set up your burning station soon, and we're going to burn our designs into the screens. You want to take your transparency of your design and you want to place it over on your screen. Just make sure that it's oriented right so that when you print, it's printing the proper way. If you have text, make sure it's mirrored, and make sure that you're burning the back of your screen. Okay? If you're wondering where to get transparencies printed, you can get them printed at places like Staples or FedEx. You just have to ask them. It's fairly cheap. The ones I got printed for this project were only $1 a piece. Burning your screens is probably the most difficult part to figure out of screen printing. It depends on the emulsion, it depends on the light, and depends on how far away that light is. For me, I have my light about a foot away, and I let it sit there, burning the image into the screen for about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. After you let your screen burn for however long it needs to, you're going to want to take that screen over to your wash station, whether that be your power washer or your hose. For me, it's the hose outside. That's why I don't have footage of this, because I didn't want my phone to get soaked, and also it was nighttime. But you want to spray down your screen first and let it soak in the water for about 30 seconds to a minute and a half, and your design should spray out much easier after you let it soak for a little bit. Once you've had your screens sprayed out, you want to bring them back inside to dry off. You can even put them back under the heat lamp for a time to help solidify all that emulsion. I unfortunately underbaked mine a little bit, so they got a little blown out. If you underburn your screens, they will lose a lot of the design. If you overburn your screens, they'll be harder to spray out. And since it seems like we underburned our screens, we're going to take the time and try and fix up a little bit of the design, as well as tape up all of the edges so that there's no bleeding when we print later, and check to see if there's any other blemishes or holes that we can fix. And just as a reminder, make sure you tape the back of your screen as well. Now that our screen is ready to print, let's talk about what we're going to print on. I will be printing on t-shirts that I picked up at the thrift stores. If I do projects for myself, I normally buy shirts at the thrift store, or if I do projects for other people, I will buy them in bulk, which you can get them either online or at a warehouse. Now that our screen is done, let's go ahead and start printing. I have a printing press, but I won't be using it for this video. It's packed away in my garage, but you don't need a printing press to screen print. All you have to do is lay out your shirts on a flat surface and put a piece of cardboard or thick paper inside the shirt to avoid bleeding throughout the shirt. And you can just print, lay the screen over top of them and just print directly on top of them. I decided to go with a light blue ink because I thought it would be nice on the two pink shirts that I have. You don't need a ton of ink. Don't be a dummy like me. Don't fill it up too much. Once you have the ink down, it's pretty simple. You just squeegee what you have down. And normally you pull up, but I'm a dummy and I I just squeegee down again. You gotta be careful with that, or else you might overbleed your ink. But that's okay because it turned out pretty nice. Just a couple of warnings while printing in this method. Be careful of getting ink on your hands because it will spread very fast to anything that you're printing. I know from experience. In fact, I think I did that several times this session. Something that can help with that is getting a couple door hinges and attaching your screen to a door hinge, essentially making a DIY screen printing press, if that's what you're into. Another thing to be careful of is how long you're going to be printing for. With water-based inks like the ones I'm using, you want to be careful not to go too long because you could have the ink dry inside the design and then the design just doesn't come out as good as it was. After I was finished printing with the blue ink, I decided to go ahead and wash my screen and let it dry so I could print in some black ink. My wife had asked me if I could print the back of her hoodie that she had converted into a backpack. So yeah, here you go. I also went ahead and printed myself a white sweater that I had bought earlier this summer. It's going to help me out a lot during the winter. I was really excited about printing on the sleeves, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. What do you guys think? Something else cool that I did was I went back and I printed black over some of the blue prints. So I got this really cool stereo stutter with the designs. I printed one on my yellow shirt and one on the gray tank that I had. After you've done all your printing, make sure that you heat treat all of your designs. Right now I'm using a heat gun after I print each of my shirts, but if you use an iron, you have to wait for the ink to dry before you can heat treat them. The heat treatment ensures that the shirt will have a longer life in the washer and dryer, because if you don't heat treat them, they will fade much faster and the ink might bleed. So make sure that you do. And there you have it. These are all the shirts that I got printed. If I wasn't such a procrastinator and worked on this video much earlier, I would have gotten a lot more printed with a lot cleaner of a design. But regardless, I hope that this video found you well. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you get excited about making art yourself. If you like my work, if you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, both at Turtle Approved. I think Instagram is Turtle__approved. I also have a YouTube channel called Turtle Approved. But yeah, just reach out if you like my art, if you want to see more from me. Thanks.